Hi everyone, we've had probably 6 months with my 3 Series and I've found a few things that I don't quite like about it, and in this video we're going to have a look at them. This is my first one. There's a little bit of a grumble from me because there's no dedicated air conditioning switch. Now there is one here, just on this side. It says max air conditioning, where if you are misted up, puts the full blowers on. You can obviously turn that off, but the air conditioning stays on. There's not a dedicated button that you've got to, or you can just toggle between air conditioning on or not. What you've got to do is go into the menu, you've got to go into heating and ventilation, and then turn the air conditioning off like we've just shown you. So that's not the best. BMW have come up with a little way to actually fix this though, and it's quite simple. You can turn the air conditioning on and off literally just by telling the car. So let's have a go, see how good this is. Hey BMW.
Hello, what can I help you with?
Turn on the air conditioning.
I've activated the air conditioning system.
Sorted. So although there's not a dedicated button, there is an easy fix, but for me I would like an on and off button, because it is something that as a driving instructor you do tend to use all the time. Air conditioning is great for keeping us cool in the summer. However, for me it's better use of keeping these windows clear, which it does expertly. So first grumble, no air conditioning switch. The next thing I'd like to have a little moan at is some of the gimmicky tech that's on this car. You can get it on a lot of the models in the range nowadays from BMW, and it's called gesture control. I've already had a moan about this in a previous video and I've had to turn it off. Effectively what it is that you can move your hand in certain ways and gestures here, and there's a sensor up here which senses this area of the actual car, and it senses what you do with your hand, and you can operate certain functions. You can use it to turn the volume up on the stereo. I've got no source selected at the moment, so we're not going to have any radio coming on, any copyright issues, but if you do this with your finger in a circular manner, that would turn the radio up, or the music that you're listening to, and the other way round turns it down. You can also change stations by moving your thumb this way or your thumb that way, and there are a few other things that you can do. But because I often talk with my hands while I'm teaching, I was forever changing radio stations and turning the radio up while I was on lessons. So for me it was no good whatsoever. I don't see a problem with either reaching over and using the switch to turn the stereo up, or even here on the steering wheel you've got a couple of buttons that you can use and even change the channel here, or the radio station, or the track that you're listening to. So for me, gesture control, nah, no good. Okay, moving on of my moans and my grumbles. It's nothing really to do with BMW. It's my choice, to be honest, to get this car, but there's not a dedicated set of dual controls that fit this vehicle, and they are okay. That's all I'll say. The guy who fits them for me, Steve, he did a brilliant job of making them fit as best he can, but you're never going to get that top quality product if it's something that's universal. Things need to be specific for the vehicle that you're actually using, and the main manufacturer, He-Man, don't make a set for a 3 Series BMW, so I had to get a universal set. And as you can see, they're okay, they're down there in a footwell, but they're having to be used slightly skew-if, because you need the clutch to be depressed fully, obviously, to operate the gears, but because of how they're designed and how they're made, what I've got to do is have the clutch quite high up in the air, so therefore there's enough of a press to then make the gears work. So they're not ideal. The most important thing though is the brake pedal works, which is the safety one. So a little bit of a grumble, not too bad though. Another grumble is a similar grumble that I had with my last BMW, and I've just had this car serviced, and this is my main grumble, that the service schedule on these BMWs isn't really suitable to doing the job that I do. I do a fair bit of town driving, and I know and I understand that that puts sort of like more pressure and more wear on the components and the parts of the car. But I purchased this car with nearly 5,000 miles, and I've only done about 4,000 miles in 6 months in it, but it chewed through about 12,000 miles worth of service schedule in 4,000 miles. So what I'm getting at is, it says on the car when I bought it that it's about 12,000 miles until it's due a service, but it only took me 4,000. And that was similar in my 1 Series as well, that it used to chew through these service schedules pretty quickly. So that's a little bit of a grumble about it. But saying that, the service that I did have on this car actually yesterday from Williams BMW in Liverpool was very good. It was a reasonable price. It was done and dusted within the time scale that I expected. Everything couldn't grumble, but the actual cars themselves, they are not really ideal for doing the job that I do. There is probably an element of that of buying a diesel. However, there wasn't an option when I purchased this car of having a petrol engine manual, and I'm sure if that was the case, the service schedule may not have been as disastrous as they are. Another grumble that I've got is totally my fault as well. It's the black paint. I know it can look the part sometimes, but black is the worst colour to try and keep looking clean and presentable. It always looks dirty. Even when it is really clean, if it's in sunlight, you can see all the swirls in the paint mark. It's even been mentioned on, I think it was actually the Change the Wheel video that I did a number of weeks back, that you could see all the swirls in the paint paintwork. So the black paint, although it looks good when it's all clean and polished, and as it came out the factory, it doesn't stay like that for long on UK roads or any road. So black paint, not really a fan. Wish I'd chose something else, to be honest, but again, that's not the car's fault, that's me. The next grumble that I've got with this car, it's a trait of a few cars nowadays. I know my Mrs. M3 does the same thing, and it's simply this. When you select reverse gear, let's shut the beeping up, this left mirror can often drop down on the floor. But it's not going to do it at the moment, because I'm going to have to be careful of my foot on the clutch pedal and make sure it does stay there, else we're going to launch back into the bollards behind us. But my foot's stretched out to the floor, my foot's on the clutch still, and if I switch this switch across here to this side, over to the right, you'll see the mirror drop down. You cannot see anything of what's going on behind if that mirror's on the floor. I sort of see the reasoning behind it, because people think I'm going to be able to see whether I'm in the bay. But if you have your mirrors set correctly, that's not an issue. And if you do have that mirror dropping down all the time, it takes away that view of the distance that mirror is really important for. Else you're not going to see the cyclist who's coming up until it's too late. So for me, that's another little grumble. I'm forever having to show my pupils literally by moving the selection switch either to the right or the left, determines whether that left mirror is going to dip down and see the floor when you select reverse. But for me, nah, don't like that. My next grumble is one of my own making, really. Well, really one of my own making. My choice was to get a manual vehicle. I have to really, to do the work that I do teaching and training driving instructors, although you can train the driving instructor in an automatic vehicle, if I was teaching in an automatic vehicle, there's a big section of knowledge for me that's lacking. So I need to prepare my instructors as best way I can, and for me it's not in an automatic, so I had to choose the manual. But the way that this car is set up and how it drives is much more suited to the automatic gearbox, I think. So is this the last manual I'll have? Maybe. Automatics are going to be more and more common because of the electric and hybrid vehicles that are now getting a common sight on our roads, so everything is going to go that way. But for me, it's spending a lot of time in the car. I just wish it was an automatic. The next grumble that we've got, needing to be on the move for, and it's because I'm going to show people how this particular system works. It's called lane departure warning system, and simply what it is, it's a system, it's a safety system on the car that stops your car moving outside of its lane until you've got a signal on. For me, I sort of see its importance because people do drift off, people don't pay attention, and then it can save a particular problem. But the part of it for me that is absolutely ludicrous is that it allows you to lane change as long as you put a signal on. So what the car manufacturers have effectively done is put the onus on signalling rather than looking, which for me is the main cause of problems on the road. People don't look properly. How many accidents have happened when people haven't signalled? How many accidents have happened when people haven't looked? And if you think about things in that way, it's quite frightening. So I want to be in control of when I put that signal on, because then it forces my observations to have to look. If you put the onus on signalling, people still do this and always will do unless people change their mindset. I've signalled, so therefore it's okay. Not the fact that someone sat right next to you. So you wouldn't need these systems to operate in this way if people look properly. So we're going to have a quick look at this. It operates on this car at speeds above 40 miles an hour. So what we're going to do is just go down the road a little bit, and then have a little look on the motorway and see how it works. So I've got the system switched on at the moment, and it's in sort of low mode. What I mean by that is it's not going to react early, it's going to react quite late. But I have got the option in this car to have steering intervention or not, but there's still some rumbles and some movement of the steering wheel if you try and do a lane change without signalling. So we're going to see what goes on. Have you got lane departure warning system on your vehicle? I know some of the Vauxhalls have got it. I remember having a conversation with someone in one of the threads on one of my videos about it, and I was gobsmacked then that the manufacturers make vehicles that you have to signal to move lanes and put the onus not on observational work. So I'm going to head on to this motorway. I'm just going to keep back of this one. Let's have a little look to see whether it allows me to do the movement onto the motorway without a signal. There's no one behind that's going to be any issue. The bin wagons on catch me up. The lorries, in fact, I do need to signal. I can't do it at this point because the lorry is in the area. Shame that. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and do a lane change now behind the lorry without. And it didn't do anything in that scenario. I wonder why that is. I haven't actually tested it this much or that much. So maybe because, I don't know, the speed. No, I was over 40. I'm going to try and do a lane change now out to the right around the lorry. Interesting. So I've changed the settings onto medium, and as you can see, as you put the signal on, it glides over, not an issue. But I'm going to try and do a lane change to my left side now without, and it fights against. I hope you saw that on the steering wheel, that it pulls back. And if you look at the police car up ahead, police car just lane changed from lane 3 back into lane 2 without a signal. So for all you people who think that the lane changes are always requiring of signals, that's a proper traffic bobby as well. They know how to drive. If he didn't, that's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. So let's try again. Let's try a lane change out to the right hand side without signalling. And it pulls back. And that for me is lethal. You should put the onus on your looks and go when you like, rather than thinking that you've just got to signal all the time. Observations are even more important in these conditions. So if I check it's good and no one's there, no issue with me coming back, but my car fights against it all the time. It's not so much pressure that it's ever going to cause you not to be able to override it, but honestly, it's not something that I like. And as you'll see now, we're going to turn it off. Steering intervention off, lane departure warning system off. And that's how I roll in this car. Doesn't mean that's going to be correct for everyone. Not everyone's going to be at that particular level that I'm supposed to be at. So you decide for yourself whether that's something that's going to benefit you. But remember, it's all about education and learning. Try and have the whole situation covered by your observations, not just relying on putting a signal on. I hope that helps everyone. Wonder whether those things that I've had a grumble at would do your head in. Let us know in the comments. Take care everyone. I'll see you all soon.